Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. You know the drill right now. It's a rainy Friday as we're recording this, but hopefully a sunny Monday that we're looking at for the week ahead. New guests joining me. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on. Things have been a little busy for me these past few weeks. Mainly it was just me being sad about Philly sports, eventually just doing what Philly sports do and breaking my heart. So I just needed some time. But new guest, Christina is joining us this week. Excited to have her on. We're going to talk all things about her new book that's out and what you can expect when you read it, because you will read it. But before we get to that, you know the drill of the show, the 3, 2, 1 thing that we always do. So 3 things motivating me for the week ahead. Not really sports related. You can see I still have the Eagles stuff on it. The game is tonight. So yes, go Birds. I'm always excited about that. But I kind of need a break from sports. I feel like after like a month of doing nothing but watching the Phillies, that my wife was like, "Can we not watch sports for like 2 straight months?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do that." So, what's on the horizon for us is we're pretty backlogged on TV shows that like our DVR is just full of episodes of like cooking shows that we didn't get around to. We're like so behind on all the Halloween baking stuff that we usually watch that we haven't. So, little late, but catching up on that. So exciting stuff. This coming weekend, I'm going to be taking my daughter to one of my college friends. His son is having a birthday party, so getting the kids together and having that is something that we look forward to. They're doing it like a trampoline park, so watching her be like a lunatic and not jumping on me, but like on actual things you're supposed to jump on is going to be a fun break for me this weekend, just to see her enjoy that. And then we do have her parent-teacher conference this week. And I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but every year I do kind of look forward to what's going on with her, how she's developing in the classroom, or the daycare room, for lack of better term, because she is like a completely different little kid, apparently, from in the house to when she's interacting with other toddlers. So I always just kind of like to see how she's doing with that, growing and adapting and getting used to social situations that don't involve me. So looking forward to seeing all of that. Some goals for me for the week ahead. I am trying to record some new stuff for social media. I'm trying to branch out a little bit. I feel old, but I'm trying to get into TikTok, and I'm probably well past the target audience of TikTok, so bear with me, but still at least trying to do that, because I know recruiting is kind of taken off on TikTok, so I'm got to stay relevant, right? So seeing what I can do in that regard. And then the holidays are quickly approaching, so that means tough to get hiring managers on the schedule with you. So just making sure I'm packing interviews in this week, just because the following week is going to be tough to make sure we can nail down some time for that. And a win from the week before, I did close out one position despite the hecticness that it was. I was able to close one out, so very excited about that. But that's what I have going on this week. Christina, what's going on in your world this week? Are you like, let's talk about the book then in that regard. You know, you've been posting about it. You know, is there anything coming up? Do you have any? I know you've been trying to get some signings, get some stuff set up. Anything on the horizon on that front in terms of, you know, getting out in front of people and signing and talking about what the book is all about?
Sure. Yeah. And I haven't necessarily been trying to get book signings. My goal really has been to use my book as a foot in the door to get in front of groups of people, primarily and preferably young people, like high school age, maybe middle school age,
Okay.
to just kind of get conversations started about money and helping people realize the importance of starting a financial education at an earlier age, because a lot of people tend to not think about that until they're well into adulthood, and maybe they've already made some mistakes that they then have to dig themselves out of. So I have a couple speaking engagements coming up at local libraries further into like in December, and things like that. And then just yesterday I had put just kind of like a huge ask out there on Facebook, and kind of just saying, like, I have a goal to get my book in front of this world-renowned author that I really look up to. And sure enough, there was a connection on my page. And last night I met up with someone who used to work for this person, and they are going to be a connection for me. So it's stuff, little things like that are kind of just, what I'm kind of trial and erroring, figuring out how to best get the premise of my book out to the people that need to hear it. So
Okay, so the book is called Money Girl. So what was the inspiration for us? I mean, you and I have known each other for quite some time, and you've always seemed to be pretty savvy in terms of investments and planning for yourself. So was this just something that you said, I'm kind of finding some success with this, I want to pass on what I've learned, or did people approach you and ask for advice? What was kind of the
yeah, well,
the
it ended up being I was given a financial education through my parents, just, all growing up, and it didn't really hit me until I was probably in my 30s that I realized that that was unique and that not every child gets that education. And started hearing more and more people around me, just friends of mine or people that I would meet, saying, "Man, I wish I knew what you knew, back when you were 17 or when you started, building wealth for yourself. I wish I knew." And I got it's kind of upsetting hearing so many people say, "I wish I knew." And you're like, well, man, how do we get this information to people, before, so that they don't have to wake up someday saying, "I wish I knew." So I was kind of like, man, someone needs to write a book about this because I never saw myself as an author. I still don't even think I'm a good writer, but it just felt like it was too important of a subject matter and that maybe people could resonate with my experience. So I was just like, I guess I have to just try to do this. And it took me about 2.5 years. It was probably the
Mhm.
hardest thing I've ever done, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you're aware there's a lot of different financial assistance and education books. So what did you try to do to make yours a little different and try to give some different advice than what might be found in some of the other more
Yeah,
notable ones that have been out for quite some time?
for sure. So I think what's different about mine is that I tried to make it very easily digestible for, middle school and high school age people and just give them kind of very common sense, very basic financial literacy, bullet points and things that they can then go and look into further on their own, but stuff that, a lot of people might take for granted as they get older and just think like, oh, well, yeah, I know that now and stuff. But if you're never taught these things as um, a child or a teenager, it might take you a lot longer to learn them than than need be, and that would benefit you.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback. Some of the, I wouldn't say surprising feedback, but just what I wasn't expecting is more so like parents coming to me and saying to me, this opened up conversations with my kids about money and and thanking me and saying, I wouldn't have known how to approach this or I wouldn't have known what to say, but my kids and I are now talking about money and they see the benefit in that. So while I thought it would just be, high schoolers and whatnot reading my book, it turns out it's older people too that have kids and using it as a tool to get those conversations started, which I makes me really happy.
Yeah, and I saw something that you shared not too long ago, and I'm wondering if with this feedback that you've been getting, you got some insight on this, but that parents don't always have that conversation or don't feel prepared to have the conversation with
Mhm.
financial literacy and financial planning with their kids. And with all the different conversations parents have to have, you would think that would maybe be one of the easier ones. So do you know, or did you get any insight as to why it was a struggle for so many of them to sit down and have that conversation with their kids?
Yeah, I think it's a couple reasons. Sometimes it's just that, you're running your kids all around to different sports practices and trying to get food on the table too, and just keeping up with everything that it becomes difficult to be like, okay, wait, now today we have to sit down and talk about this. But I think secondarily, a lot of just from what I've heard, a lot of adults are like, I barely know this stuff. I'm not, equipped to teach it. I don't even know where to begin to teach it to a kid. So it's, I think, a combination of not feeling confident in your own knowledge about it to pass it on, and also just the hustle and bustle of being a parent.
Okay. So from the feedback you're getting and when you sat down to start writing this, looking back on that now, what was the goal when you sat down, and now that it's out and you're getting the feedback, what are you like most thankful for when people come to you and say, "Hey, this is what I took away from reading the book"?
So I would say my goal evolved into, like, when I first sat down to start writing it, it wasn't about like book sales or anything like that. It was almost more for like to gain some credibility with this subject matter, to maybe, like I said, like open doors to come speak to groups, to get conversations started with kids
Mhm.
about this type of thing. Um, so that was originally the goal. As I got further along with the book and really, like, having it be fleshed out on page, it I really just started to feel like I want to change future generations. I feel like for so long people get trapped in this I just, lack of money knowledge, and it causes problems. And by the time you realize you have those problems, you're further along. Or like if you had started building wealth at 17 instead of waking up at 30 realizing you have to dig yourself out of some mistakes before you can even start building wealth, that impacts your ability to buy a house. That impacts your ability to be philanthropic and help people that are really in need, or to set your family up for success and wealth in the future. It impacts every aspect of your life, and even just your stress levels and things like that. And
Mhm.
so I felt like I want to stop that cycle of this, just not knowing how to deal with money and all the repercussions that come from that. And I want to, like, for the next generation and generations after that, I want it to be a new way of, starting your financial life on the
Okay.
right foot. Yeah.
Gotcha,
Makes
gotcha.
sense.
So within the book then, beyond just, is there like specific steps that you took, or is it more fluid in terms of this is not like a step by step, this is what I did to succeed, or more so this is what you should be looking at personally?
I do share about what my journey was, the different steps that I took to get to where I am, and not necessarily saying, "Hey, this is what you should do." But my hope in that is that it just shows young people that there are other options of, like, maybe not just having a 9 to 5 job, or not having to work until you're 60 or 60, whatever the age is that people retire now. Like,
Mhm.
that there are other options. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You can make money work for you. And so just by using my experiences as like an illustration to show that there's opportunities and there's options, and you can, create your own life, based on making the right financial decisions.
Okay. Now, prior to becoming the successful author, you kind of built your brand as the Lancaster homegirl. So,
Mhm.
what real estate's kind of one of those fields where it's tough to get started in. It's tough to find great success in unless you really do the work, which you did. So, was that something that you kind of thought was a path you wanted to take early on, or was real estate something that through trial and error of different things, different interests, that you kind of settled on as this is the way for me?
Yeah, so I knew from the time that I was a kid that I wanted to be in real estate. And that started because I knew that I wanted to be a landlord. Like, I knew that I wanted to own properties. And then so it was kind of, it just made sense. Well, the best way to do that would be to actually be in the industry, working in the industry.
Mhm.
Um, but I just, after high school, I went and got a college degree because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I went to Westchester for marketing. And after I graduated from college, I was like, I need a paycheck. I can't just go into a 100% commission job.
Mhm.
So I just, yeah, did other jobs for a while that I really didn't care about, until finally, probably like 5 or so years out of college, I was like, I need to just finally try to do real estate, even though it's scary, to not have um a paycheck. I was just like, I need to either sink or swim, because I don't like having a boss, and I don't, nothing that I'm doing is really that exciting for me. So I always knew that's what I wanted to do, um, because I wanted to be a landlord. But then it ended up just being such a perfect career for me as well, because I feel so passionate about the benefits that owning real estate can bring to someone's life, that when I help people buy and sell and invest and things like that, it's like I feel like I'm actually doing good in the world, and also it's my, career at the same time. So it's just, yeah, I love it so much.
So now that you've been in it for some time, what do you feel like you enjoy the most about it? Has it changed, since the initial entry into real estate to where you are now, that it's evolved in terms of I enjoyed this the most when I started out, but now that, I've come this far, this has kind of stood out as something that gives me more joy?
I think I was very intentional from the beginning, that I wanted to build my real estate career based on just building relationships. Like I didn't want to prospect and door knock and host open houses and just do things that made it feel very salesy and like that my people I'd be working with are just a number or something like that. Like I wanted it to be about relationship building and having those, friendships and past clients that trust me, like that was way more important than doing volume. It was more about quality over quantity. And then I honestly would say to this day, probably the thing that I enjoy most about my job is the relationships. Like I
Mhm.
just love getting to know new people and helping people and things like that. So I would say it's probably been pretty consistent what I like about being a realtor. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you and I kind of briefly discussed this before we started recording in terms of people that get into the real estate market, and it kind of goes in waves. It's really
Mhm.
hot sometimes and then it cools off. So, for anyone that does kind of make that decision that real estate is the path for them, this is what they want to do. Is there a piece of advice that you got early on that you'd pass on, or something that you've learned over time that you're going to say to anyone that says, I want to do this? Well, this is what you need to be prepared for.
So right now is a hard time to get into real estate. And I think this is the same piece of advice that so many people give and get, and rarely does anyone listen to it, but it's always 100% accurate. And it took me 3 years to figure this out. When I was first in real estate, it was the worst time possible. It was similar to now. There was no business going on. And
Mhm.
so here I come with my, license trying to be a realtor, and found out really quickly that I was just eating into my savings because there wasn't enough business going on. So I ended up getting a part-time job, like just to sustain myself for a little while. I was waitressing on the side. And after a while, that kind of turned into a crutch. Like it was like I didn't feel the urgency to really work at real estate because I didn't have to, because I had income.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I switched brokerages, and the people at this brokerage were like, no, you either need to be a full-time realtor or not. Like there's no halfway, there's no in between. You do it or you don't. And I was like, oh, okay. So I left the waitressing job and I was like, okay, I just need to make this work. And sure enough, that is exactly when real estate really started to click for me and really took off. And so now whenever a new realtor starts and they're kind of doing it part-time and they're doing something else on the side, I try to get them to understand this is never going to take off until it's the only thing that you're doing. And then eventually, most of them end up, leaving the other source of income and just doing this full time. And then of course, their business explodes and they're like, oh, I should have listened to you. And I'm like, I know, I should have listened to that sooner too.
Right.
But so anyway, so all that to say, you have to do it full time or not do it at all. And right now it's hard to do it full time without supplemental income because it's just a slow market. So
Right.
I don't know.
Right. All right. Now, final thing. I mean, I usually try to do some personal flair in here, and people watching this can see the decorations behind you. So, have you always been one that like early to decorate for the holidays, or was this a recent thing for you, or is it just like, when I feel like it, I'm putting it up?
It's always it's always like, when I feel like it, I'll put it up. And most years, I just tell myself I'm not doing it at all because I think ahead to the whole having to put it all away afterwards, and I'm like, it's not worth it. And then so sometimes it'll get right before Christmas, and I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna do it quick. I have some free time. But this year, it was like, I don't know, it was last Friday or something, maybe even 2 Fridays ago. I don't know, but I was just like, I have nothing to do. I'm bored. I'm just gonna put out my Christmas stuff. And it was entirely too early. Um, but but I was just, I don't know, I felt like doing it and I was like, this way it'll be up longer. So I don't know.
Okay.
It's always
Now,
different.
do you go overboard sometimes? I mean, are you a lights person? Are you an inflatables person, or you just kind of keep it until the
No,
end?
I do just the easiest stuff possible. I just
Okay.
put out cute little whatevers. I don't decorate the outside. I don't do lights. That's so much work. Do you do all that?
I do, but
Nice.
not till after Thanksgiving. But I've never been one to critique people. If I see decorations out November 1st, it's okay, cool. That person really enjoys that holiday. Go for it. So you and I have had some discussions in the past, sometimes heated, about the top three Christmas movies. I know we agree on Just Friends because it's a classic. How can you not love it? But if you're putting together, assembling a top three films, your go-to every December, you have to watch these, or it doesn't feel like the holidays. What makes your list?
Christmas movies. White Christmas. That could very well be number one. I love White Christmas so much. I watch it a couple times a year.
Okay.
Um, and then if I had to pick one other one besides Just Friends, I would probably say Elf. I feel like that's just timeless. It's always hilarious. There's so many good ones.
Okay, so you lean more towards comedy, aside from White Christmas. Not that it's not funny, but more musical than comedy.
It's
And
pretty
then
funny. If you
it is.
dig into it, like that movie is funny. I don't think people realize how funny it is.
And the
But
last,
but yeah, I'm not like a Miracle on 34th Street or Wonderful Life kind of
okay.
girl.
Yeah, as of I we watched those when I was a kid, and I think my parents really enjoyed them. They haven't been for me as I've entered adulthood, but I understand the appeal of them. And then last question, then Christmas music. Are you a fan, or certain instances, or is it on your radio already?
So I have every year I try to curate my Christmas Pandora station, and it's like it's been missing the mark so far this year. I actually did turn on my Christmas Pandora like probably around the same time I decorated. I'm gonna be sick of it soon. But I try to get the like, the Mariah Carey song and the NSYNC holiday and like all the like fun upbeat stuff, but it's just been playing a lot of like Nutcracker and weird stuff lately.
Okay,
So
like a lot of
I'm
sad.
working on it.
Okay. All right. No, before I let you go, then, take some time, plug the book. Where can people find it? Where can they follow you for advice or anything like that? And any events that they might be able to come see you speak at in the near future here.
Thanks. Yeah. So I donated my book to every library in Lancaster County, so people can grab it there for free. Um, it's on Amazon. It's called Moneygirl, all one word. I also have a website, ChristinaDeal.com. You can buy it through there. And I'm not doing a great job of it, but I will be keeping that website updated with like the speaking events that are open to the public.
Okay.
So those are good ways to stay in the loop.
All right. Perfect. I'll be sure to link those in the comments then on both the platforms. So Christina, thank you so much for jumping on here with me. I appreciate you taking some time to talk about the book. It's exciting stuff. I've been enjoying seeing the reviews you're getting, and the success you've had. I hope it just continues to increase here.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good week, everyone.